Our first speaker tonight is Maude Barlow, who I don't think any of you have ever heard of Maude, probably. She's the National Chairperson of the Council of Canadians and one of our great leaders across this land. Maude.
Wow. Thank you very, very much for an absolutely wonderful evening. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for that beautiful song. That was just the songs that just went straight into my heart. Thank you so much. And thank you for the welcome from our elder. Stephen Harper came to power with a mandate. I don't know who sent him. The Calgary school, maybe his God, I'm not sure. But he came with a mandate to change Canada permanently and profoundly. He has imposed on Canada an extreme right-wing agenda that is so deep and has such long roots that I fear it's going to last for years and maybe decades unless we have the courage and the political will to reverse some of what has happened. He's given corporations unprecedented tax windfalls. He plans to dramatically reduce the federal presence, funding, and policy involvement in our healthcare system, which will lead to the privatization of health services, which he has supported from the day he worked for the National Citizens Coalition. He attacks workers and unions in an attempt to break their right to collective bargaining. He's aggressively promoting the privatization of essential services such as water. If a municipality wants to get funding for water services now, the only way they can get federal funding is if they move to a public-private partnership. He has attacked the collective power of farmers, shutting down the wheat board and putting the supply management system at jeopardy with these trade agreements. He has abandoned the Kyoto Accord, and he gives more money every year in subsidies to big oil than his government gives to Environment Canada. He has gutted freshwater laws, the Fisheries Act, the Navigable Waters Protection Act, the Environmental Assessment Act. He has left the vast majority of our lakes and rivers absolutely unprotected in any way. And he has betrayed First Nations by refusing to recognize their right to free, prior, and informed consent when this exploitation takes place in their territories. He has created a two-tier system of refugees and refugee protection, making the process vulnerable to right-wing swings in political action. I mean, our immigration and refugee system is a shocking sham right now. He has opposed all progressive human rights legislation at the UN, including the global moratorium on executions, the human right to water, which the Harper government led the fight against, and he has shamefully softened Canada's traditional opposition to torture. He has stated clearly that trade openly trumps human rights in our foreign policy, and he has opened the door for more corporate control over our policies. And it's very important that we understand that these trade agreements, the one with NAFTA, the one coming up with Europe, the one potential with the investment agreement with China and others, give more and more corporations the right to say that if any future government in this country tries to undo what I've just talked about, and they can prove that it's going to cost them money, and they can sure do that for environmental changes, they can sue the government of Canada for millions and potentially billions of dollars of lost profit. So we need to understand how he's using the trade agreements as a kind of constitutional framework to lock in this deregulation. The Harper government has slashed foreign aid and tied it to the bottom line interests of Canada's mining companies. Canada's mining companies, to our shame, have the worst reputation in the world in terms of human rights and environmental violations. He has abandoned peacekeeping and heavily subsidizes the defense industry. And the Harper government is shutting down dissent from anyone who dares to question this agenda. He prorogues Parliament at his whim. He used fraudulent election tactics to direct non-conservative voters to phony voting booths. We have the Federal Court of Canada laying that right straight at the feet of the Conservative Party of Canada, but there has been no action taken to assure us that that won't happen again. He muzzles scientists and public sector workers. He withholds vital information from the public and from journalists. He calls environmentalists enemies of Canada. And I'll just give you a partial list of the groups he has shut down or defunded. The National Council of Welfare, the Court Challenges Program, the Canadian Conference of the Arts, the Military Police Complaints Commission, Development and Peace, Kairos, Rights and Democracy, Alternative, Match International, the Canadian Council for International Cooperation, Climate Action Network, the Canadian Environmental Network, the Experimental Lakes Area, and the Canadian Foundation for Climate and Atmosphere and Science, and has started to write out all of the environmental or independent science institutes and research centers that he's closed down, and I would have run out of time. I would have taken the whole evening. The document's that thick. This is what Stephen Harper does to dissent in this country, or even possible dissent, or even a possible different view. Well, I have news for Stephen Harper tonight. I have news for you, Mr. Harper. You can slash all you want, but the voices of dissent are not going to be silenced, and they are growing stronger than they have ever been in this country. You represent what Jeffrey Sachs calls governance by the 1%, for the 1%, and of the 1%. That 1% does not represent the values or beliefs of the majority of Canadians, and you are doing this in the name of a very small group of people, and getting smaller by the day with even the moral compass that was assumed you had has moved. We have a fundamentally different vision. We challenge corporate rule, and we believe that the economy exists to serve communities and people, not the other way around. And this is a fundamentally different way of looking at the world. We know it is possible to commit to sustainable energy and a sustainable alternative energy future. Many countries in the world are doing this. Germany has promised to go, at least half of Germany has promised to go totally fossil fuel free within the next 10 to 20 years. But it takes commitment, and when you're building pipelines and expanding the tar sands and setting up fracking operations across the country, you're allowing the energy and the oil industry to dictate policy, and that means that we don't put any money, any energy, or any political will into an alternative. We in this room know that we can do this. We know we have to do this if the planet is to survive. We know that we can create trade agreements that protect human rights, worker rights, social security, and the environment. And in fact, there is a trade agreement, a trade bloc in South America now among a number of countries who, yes, trade with each other and, yes, want to be more prosperous and take their people out of poverty, but they talk about the concept of living well, not living better. So it's not a competitive system, and it's not a system that gives power over to corporations. There are models around the world that we can use, and we know that we will present those kind of trade options to the ones that are driven by corporations currently. We support family farms and local sustainable food production, controlled by farmers themselves for the good of the community, not for the bottom line profit of transnational agribusiness. We will fight you tooth and nail if you try to dismantle Medicare, and I want to say this as strongly as I can. Stephen Harper will be gone one day, and he will go to his great reward being on the boards of all his corporate friends, and he is not taking our public health care system with him. Let us rally. We will not let you destroy our precious water heritage in a planet running out of clean water. We have a very special responsibility in this country to take special care of the gift that we have been given. There are water refugees building around the world, and we need to understand that this water is our responsibility. It's not our right, it's our responsibility to care for. We will protect Canada's water as a public trust, a common heritage, and a human right. And I just want to say finally that partly because of your horrible, undemocratic policies, Stephen Harper, We are building an unbelievable alliance in this country of First Nations and non-First Nations people that I have never seen in all of my years. We know that First Nations governance and treaties are really all that stand between us and the Harper vision, because they have stripped the rules and tools that we had in place to protect our resources and our public services. So it's extraordinarily important that we work together. We have to work across the country with labor, environmentalists, farmers, frontline healthcare workers, social justice groups and activists, communities of color, faith-based organizations and groups, and the like, as we have never done before. The time has come for us to come together across these sectors and say, it may not be my first issue, but if it's your issue and it matters to you, it matters to me, and I will be there, sister and brother, on the line when you need me. So I welcome you to a wonderful evening, and I just want to say on all of our behalf to Stephen Harper and the people meeting at the Conservative Party of Canada tonight, Canada does not belong to you. Your narrow ideology is not our narrow ideology. We have a very different vision of the future. We are the stewards of this land, and you answer to us, and we say no to your vision. Thank you so much.